Mr. Russell, and I'm going to talk about IP addressing. You should pause this video anytime you need to. An IP address has 32 bits divided into 4 octets. That means 4 sets of 8 binary digits. To make the address easier to read, people use decimal numbers to represent binary digits. An IP number uniquely identifies all public network interfaces that use TCP/IP. We'll talk more about that later. In other words, everything on a network has an IP number associated with it. For example, the IP address of 192.168.1.1 will look like the 8 binary digits that you see before you in binary form. This is what computers use when they talk with each other. This is the language of computers, which is the binary language. In other words, if I took the octet and divided it into its 4 parts, and I wanted to represent it with its 8 binary digit equivalent, it would look just like this. So 192.168.1.1 would look like the binary numbers on the right. Again, this is how computers speak with each other. So each octet is 8 bits. 4 times 8 bits equals 32 bits. This is often called 32-bit addressing. An IP address has 32 bits. Again, 4 times 8 bits equals 32 bits. This is why 192.168.1.1 is the 32-bit binary address of that IP number, and it looks like the numbers, the binary numbers, the ones and zeros that you see below. The lowest number in any octet is 0. The highest number in any octet is 255. So how is this so, you may ask? Well, let me show you. The numbers with the blue background indicates the binary value for each place. 128, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, and 1. To determine the decimal equivalent, you add the binary places that are identified by the number 1. You only count the ones, you don't count the zeros. So I have 1 under 128, 1 under 32, 1 under 2. So if you add all those together, you come up with 162. The next column down, the next row down, has all zeros. There's nothing to add, so that equals to 0. The column under that has all ones, so you add all of them. That turns out to be 255. Again, 0 to 255 is the numbers equivalent that you are going to have in any octet. So, another way to look at it, 128 plus 32 plus 2 equals 162. And this is how you add all octets. There are 2 parts to any IP address: the logical network and the host ID. The host ID is the actual individual computer on that network. Red equals logical networks, and the green equals host ID. So 172.24 is the network portion, and 208.192 is the host or individual computer. This is for a Class B address. There are 5 classes for IP numbers, but we are only going to talk about 3 of them. That's A, B, and C. And you see the different classes with the associated subnet mask next to it. The subnet mask actually tells you what class of service of IP that you're dealing with. The 255 always indicates the network portion, and the zeros always indicate the host portion. So if you see a subnet mask with the first 3 octets of 255, 255, 255, you're going to know you're dealing with a Class C address. So for a Class A address, 172 would designate the network and the rest would be the host. For a Class B, 172.24 would designate the network and the rest would be the host ID. For a Class C address, this would indicate that the first 3 octets all the way from 172, 24 to 208 is a network and the rest is the host ID. Another way to look at it, you can see in the second column, the middle column, the first octet range, and you can figure out what is going to be the class of your IP address. 0 to 127 for A, 128 to 192 for B, and 192 to 223 for Class C addresses. If you look at the last column, you can see how many bits are used for each IP address for the network. For this illustration, you can see from the column all the way to the left again that the first octet numbers also dictates what class of service you're in for A, B, and C. If you look at the subnet mask, that can also tell you what class of IP address that you're dealing with. The 255, again, that illustrates the network portion, and the 0 represents the host portion. So there are various ways that you can easily tell what IP class of service that you're dealing with. And also with the last column, you can see the number of hosts, that's individual computers that you can put on each class of service. As a network administrator, you're going to have to decide which class of service that you're going to be using. So thank you for watching, and we have other videos on the way that's going to address IP addressing. So stay tuned for the next video.